Yeah. I could have even done it for 6:30, but I wasn't so sure. I live
Actually,
close.
no, we're not 6:45. It was scheduled for 6:45, but now it's 6:53. I screwed
We're
that up.
keeping them waiting.
That's it. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Welcome to the Metal Voice live feed. Today on the show, we're going to talk about the new single that was released by Ghost. Their new album, Skeletá, is going to be released on April 25th on Norma Vista Recordings and has been preceded by the singles Satanized, that was the first one, La Chimera, the second one, and the third one that was just released this afternoon, Peacefield. This is the band's follow-up to Impera that was released in 2022. So, I mean, yeah, they've had a lot of cover songs over the years to fill in the gaps here and there, but yes, this is all new material. All new material. Papa v Perpetua.
Perpetua.
That's the new name.
Think about perpetual, but take away the L. Perpetua.
I mean, they're looking for a new pope. Yeah, you never know.
Papa the Fifth Perpetua.
All right, so I see everybody's jumping on the live feed. What do we got? What do we see? Remember that? Romper, domper, bomper, boom, room.
Yeah.
I see Jim Harrison.
I see Jimmy.
I see Art.
And I see
KQ. I see Kevin. I see Truck and Rollin' USA. I see The Hound. And De Phonoxtra 60. They're as metal as sticks. At the end of the show, or at the end of the segment, we will ask the big question. False metal or not? Is Ghost and all the music they've been coming out with on this new album false metal? Or is this real metal? Okay, Perrin. Tell me what you think. I mean, overall, then we'll tear the song apart little by little.
All right. First, overall. So this is the song they've been opening their shows with. And because of the no camera policy at shows, we haven't been inundated with all kinds of video of the song. There's been little blips of audio that people kind of might have got off their watch or whatever. But this is us hearing the opening song of the album and the opening song of their live show. And I think it feels like an opening song, right? You have this kind of, I won't call it a children's choir. It's a choir that kind of just, doing some choir things as kind of like an intro in the first, 30 seconds. And then you can almost like picture this in the live setting where, the flash pots going off and the guys posing and throwing shapes, because it's very much of a, look, let's be honest. Like I hear this and I hear Bon Jovi and I hear Def Leppard and I hear Journey. And I will say to people out there, if you liked Impera, because Impera was a very love it or I like their first couple albums, I don't like it. But if you liked Impera, and I did, this song could fit right next to Spillways or Griftwood, which were the poppier, hookier songs on Impera. So this follows that. So I'll say this, of the three singles, I like it the best. I've had friends say they like it the least, but I think this is a big, hooky arena rock song.
Here's what I think. This is pure speculation. I cannot prove or disprove this. Yesterday, you were sending me links. There was these links of people who were uploading the song like a bootleg from a show. Methinks this was planned. Methinks just to stimulate the release of today. This was purposely done by anonymous YouTubers posting bootlegs. It's very clever. It's a very clever marketing tool. I just found it very weird that right before the song was going to be released, there was a little bit of a teaser. Can you hear it? Can you not really hear it? A lot of people are screaming. They're going wild over this song. I don't know. Seems kind of fixed to me, but brilliantly marketing played. How's that? What do you think?
But there's also another, it's like, so and the tour just started like a week and a half ago, and they've been playing 4 new songs. They've been playing Lacrima, which we've heard, and they've been playing Satanize, which we've heard. They've been opening with Peacefield, which we now hear, so there was a bit of audio out there, planted or not. And there's also a song called Umbra that's going to be on the album that there's some audio out there. So why?
But what do you think about my plant idea? It was planted, it was leaked. There's no phone policy, and one guy wrote in the comments, oh, I had to put this up. I cleaned it up. I had to post it. I had to post the song.
Well,
Personally, I think that was
I have an
pride.
iWatch. I could record it off my iWatch if I wanted to. So somebody might have done that. Somebody might have hidden their phone in their crotch. I have no idea.
Or maybe the Ghost crew, who are
Yeah.
very savvy in marketing, leaked it just to get everybody freaked out today.
Well, I mean, regardless, look, if there's one thing this band is good at, whether you like them or not, it's shining a spotlight on themselves and marketing themselves and getting people talking about them. If you go on their YouTube channel, their socials, it's becoming kind of like Maiden, that where like every show there's kind of like some video behind the scenes by a crew, them around, well, not the band, but the fans, kind of more fan stuff. But, yeah, these guys are good at promoting themselves. So, the song, the audio or bit of the audio leaked. But, I mean, frankly, you couldn't really make it out very well.
But you could hear the screaming fans,
Yeah.
fans.
Well, again, it's how the show is opening. And this is a good opening song. I really, like I said, I mean, I think this is the best single of the three. And it for me, it's most like the last album. And I hear Def Leppard, I hear Bon Jovi, and I hear Journey. So maybe, I'm getting ahead and we'll get to the metal thing later. But anyone who's watching is probably saying, well, Perrin, that doesn't sound very metal to me.
Well, is Bon Jovi really metal? That's the question.
Well, that's a whole other show.
All right, so let's get on with the song. It starts off with a very chuggy 80s guitar sort of picking. It could have been Eddie Van Halen. It could have been a Bon Jovi song. But it sounds like a very reverb, chunky guitar bit or a tone that speaks 80s hard
who
rock
it sounds
metal.
like to me? I swear, if I found out tomorrow that Phil Collen from Def Leppard was underneath one of those ghoul masks, it wouldn't surprise me. There are times where the tone is a very good word that you use, Jim, that, and I feel like Phil Collen and the guys in Def Leppard, they have a certain tone that they play with. I swear, there's moments in this song where I'm like, Phil Collen's a ghoul. Like, he has to be. It sounds like Def Leppard. Or, the late Steve Clark has been reincarnated and he's a ghoul.
Or who knows who's under that. Maybe it's Avril Lavigne. We don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. Then, of course, the song starts out with that chugging guitar, sort of picking. Then the vocals come in. The guy's got a great sense of melody, right? I mean, Tobias has, and if you want to talk about guitar tone, vocal tone, nobody sounds like him. When you hear Klaus Meine, you think of, he's got his distinct tone. When you hear Bruce Dickinson, when you hear Paul Di'Anno, when you hear Tobias from Ghost, it's him. So that's what's spectacular about his voice. The guy can sing and he's got his own tone.
Well, I find his voice at times my least favorite part of the band, right? Because I do find, and he sounds nasally at times, and I do think in this song he sounds a little bit nasally. That's just his style, right? Like, you like Geddy Lee.
That's the way he sounds.
You like Geddy Lee or you didn't. You like, people, I always say Mike Tramp and Mark Slaughter sound whiny, So I'm not saying Tobias has a bad voice. You're right. He has a unique voice. I think he could sound nasally in certain parts of his register. And I think if I had one small complaint about this song, I think he could sound a bit nasally. But this song for me is all about the riffing. It's all about the hook. Just this musically takes you back to the 80s.
The hook is definitely there with the guitar, but the voice. I mean, he doesn't have a very powerful voice. Like, he's not an operatic singer. He's more of a Paul Simon, more soft-spoken singer. He has his own distinct tone. He doesn't have that much of a range, but man, the notes that he uses in that small range that he has, he really knows how to sing a melody really well. He really understands music. You could tell that by the way he sings.
He's a frontman to me more than a singer, right? We talk about so many bands where, again, like Ronnie James Dio was a singer and a frontman, and, Rob Halford. There's guys we consider singers first, and there's guys we consider frontmen first. I consider, Tobias, not really Tobias, all the Papas and the Cardinals and all the characters he's played. I see them as frontmen more than anything else. The funny thing is, this is such like a 80s kind of sweetly delivered song that, if you look at the band, especially the new look, Tobias and the rest of them, it's a very sinister, dark, heavy look. So you don't really expect these 80s pop tunes coming out of people who are looking like this, So that's kind of, lot to digest there. Bit of a, what is it? Is it a dichotomy? Is that what it is? I don't know. Contradiction? Who knows?
He goes into the sort of pre-chorus or a verse two, whatever you want to call it, and then you're kind of listening to the music, and if you pay really close attention to it, sort of modulates in a way, and that's where you know this guy really knows what he's doing musically. And listen to the part right when it goes, this is what dreams are made of, this is what they are afraid of. There's a little key change right there, just this tiny little thing. You got to really pay attention. You go, my God, what the hell is he doing there? And then he goes into the big Journey chorus.
Yeah.
Is that why we like the song? Because it reminds us of Journey, or because he kind of makes it his own?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I mean, the comparisons, if you look at a lot of comments on YouTube are already, he stole that from Separate Ways, Journey. And I just want to say this, right? I mean, the history of rock and roll is filled with, copying chord progressions or copying vocal cadences. And sometimes it's on purpose, and sometimes it's because you're just influenced by something and it's there in your head. So for sure, there is, a portion of the song where it's very da 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 da, like that's the cadence, and it's a cadence we've heard before, and you can just take the lyrics of Separate Ways and put it in there, and it'd probably be the same thing. And again, on purpose, not on purpose. Hey, if you want to steal great hooks and melodies, Journey's probably the band to steal it from. So. And the thing is, though, let's also remember.
I think he consciously does this to bring sort of to, what do you want to call it? So we can get sort of like a recall of our glory days, in the 80s, right?
Jim, for us, right? Because, okay, the two 50-year-old dudes listening to it say, oh, that's Separate Ways from Journey. But the 16-year-old girl listening to it might not have any clue that it sounds like Separate Ways from Journey. She just thinks it's a great melody. And we were talking about this yesterday. If there's one thing that's making Ghost blow up and be a full-on arena act right now, it's that if you look at the videos of their shows, if you just look at what's going on, they have everybody in their audience, from teenage girls to 20-something guys.
Well, and yeah, exactly. And let me tell you, they are doing, or Tobias is doing, what Motley Crue did in the 80s, right? It was a sausage fest in the metal world before Motley Crue and those hair-like bands, we'll call it. And suddenly they come along, and now half the place is full with women and the other half is with men. And Ghost is doing the same exact thing, playing kind of metal and bringing in not only the guys, but the girls and the younger girls, right? Which is important.
Unlike Motley Crue, Poison, Rat, whoever, they're not doing it so much with their look, because you can't really see what they look like in their costumes. They're doing it with the music. So the music is music that appeals to multiple demographics. But the look, which people are getting into, and they're coming into the shows in costume now. I mean, it's becoming Kiss-like. Like, if you go to a Kiss show, people are in Kiss makeup. If you go to a Ghost show now, there's a hell of a lot of people dressed up.
I'm waiting for the Ghost taking off the makeup tour. I wonder when that's going to happen. I guess when things start going south, then it's going to be like Ghost Unplugged. Well, what does he really look like? We already know. Okay.
Yeah, Tobias can't keep it a secret anymore, but hey, no one knows who the ghouls are. Like I said, if a ghoul was Phil Collins from Def Leppard, we wouldn't know,
Yeah. The Scottish guy reacts, and he says, who cares what you call it? It's freaking amazing. Jim Harrison, I thought he sung really well on Stay. I have pre-ordered the album, of course, Jim Harrison. Shh, don't tell your wife. Larry is saying, excellent. Exactly, Eldwin. I guess Eldwin must have made a comment. Oh, Eldwin, there's more than one way to bake a cake, so I can appreciate the variation in the genre, and Ghost is brilliant with the broad audience appeal. It is. You got the look. Look, the girls like the guy. He's the kind of guy that girls.
Well, he's charming. Like, I've taken my wife to see Ghost shows, and she, he dances well, and there's choreography in the show, so women are gonna like that. And just let me go to the first comment. Like, I agree with that. I know in a second we're going to talk about, is it metal or is it not metal? And should we be talking about this on the Metal Voice? I don't care. Like, I'm one of those. There's two.
Well, you're answering the question before we have to answer the question. Hold on a second. Pause.
I'm just telling you, my point of view is there's two kinds of music. There's music that you like, that's pleasing to your ears, and there's music that you don't like, that's not pleasing to your ears. And it has nothing to do with what genre you call it. You like it or you don't. So it shouldn't matter if it's metal or not. And I realize we're the metal voice, and I know the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So God forbid you let in a rap band and people lose their minds, because it's just a name, people. It's just a name. It looks good on a T-shirt, you know?
All right, so let's get back to the song. Now we got, again, the verse, the chorus, and we get to the guitar solo. Wow, this is like a flashy 80s guitar solo. Oh my God, it could have been Night Ranger. Oh my God, it could have been, like you said, Bon Jovi. It could have been Def Leppard. It could have been Phil Collins, right? Yeah, man, this is like a completely 80s guitar solo, and it even slows down at one point. Like the tempo just sort of stops, or I didn't say stops, but it just slows
down. You can picture it in a video. You can picture like a live slow motion video. Like you could just, again, it takes you back to the 80s, and I can imagine this live. I can imagine the video. Like I could just totally, it embodies all that.
Yeah, then there's another little slow part where it has a little keyboard doing the sort of the anthemic melody of the song, and then of course it goes back to the chorus, and it just it ends.
Well, the end, but let me say the end. I really love the way it ends, because they have that in the Peacefields. And
yes, they sort of like do the call response thingy.
Again, and that's like a very 80s kind of thing also, and just I love it, Doesn't just end, doesn't just fade. It's kind of like cool the way they kind of leave the song. And again, I think it's really it's a good choice of an opener, and it's a good choice of an album opener.
Eledwin says, it's been a hot minute since a song made me get up and want to dance right away. What about you, Perrin?
Yeah, I don't know if songs really get me want to get up and dancing. But I get maybe like might get a little. It's funny.
It was released like this or like this.
So I was at work. I was in my office at work.
And you were dancing alone. In your
so office. I put in some earphones, and I was just sitting at my desk. Perrin's in a good mood. No, I'm listening to Ghost, so maybe I'm in a good mood.
I am 54. It takes a bit now. Yeah, it takes. I'm 56, and right. Too much dancing, and my back starts hurting. Okay. Jim Harrison Ghost is huge for the hard rock metal movement. Nothing wrong with more fans checking out these genres. You have to say, now let's get to the question. I mean, is it metal or isn't it metal, or is this false metal? We're going to talk about baby metal another day, but today we're going to talk about Ghost.
Okay.
The word metal has evolved from, the Judas Priest 70s albums to Kiss, we'll say, to 80s, flashy guitars, to the 90s, doom and down tuning. And again, now it's changed once again, right? It sort of became this big sound, or this Andy Sneap full sound that metal is. And now it's changing again. Now it's becoming more glammy. I don't know. Is that what it is? Is it glam metal? What kind of metal is it? There's definitely the distorted guitars. There's definitely some chugging going on a lot of the songs. There's definitely a metal vibe or a look when you watch this band, and people are freaking out at shows like they were at a metal show, I guess.
Look, last time I saw them, it was like a double bill with Mastodon. So I think Mastodon is metal, right? And they're on tour together. I saw them, you and I saw them at Heavy Montreal, and one night Slayer headlined and one night Ghost headlined. So they're playing metal festivals. Mm-hmm. They're touring with metal bands. And yeah, there's some songs that are poppier. But if you listen to Year Zero, if you listen to Faith, I could name you 10 songs of theirs that are heavy metal. And I could also name you 10 songs of theirs that are poppy. But in the 80s, and I know some of our dear friends will argue with this, is Bon Jovi a heavy metal band today? No. Oof. Was Bon Jovi a heavy metal band for maybe like a year, from mid-86 to mid-87? Yeah, they were, because the definition of metal in 86, 87 was really loose. If this song came out in 86, 87, they'd be right there in Hit Parader and Circus and Metal Edge magazine, next to Motley Crue and Poison and Rat and Bon Jovi, who were the metal of that day. In hindsight, that's no longer metal, because metal, like you said, evolved into thrash and death metal and groove metal and grunge and so many other things. But,
it's taking a right turn again. I guess people got tired of this, so now it's going this way. We're back to the the big shows. We're back to
Yeah,
the
and
Alice Cooper
thank God
shocking.
someone's doing it. Look, metal is a tree with many branches. And is there a Napalm Death branch? Yeah, sure. Is there a Testament Death Angel branch? Yeah. But is there also kind of a more melodic metal branch? Sure. Is there a progressive branch? Yes. Is there a grunge branch? Yes. So it's all under the umbrella of heavy metal, and it's okay to say, I like this kind of metal or I like that kind of metal. But I mean, there's power chords, there's guitar solos, there's the big show, there's the imagery, like all of the things that were associated with heavy metal for the longest time are there.
You,
So it's
you
just on
know,
the lighter side for some
you
people.
know what's amazing? It's amazing when bands sort of bring in the ladies. And I'm not saying women don't go to shows. I'm just saying there are smaller numbers than guys typically, just generally speaking. It's amazing a band like Ghost will actually even the playing field. It'll be like almost 50-50, right? Because the guys, they're seeing something, they're getting something out of it. Maybe it's the crunchy riffs, maybe it's the sort of the demon look, maybe it's the show, maybe it's just, the musicianship, but then the ladies see something else. They like the dance, the sort of, I wouldn't say dance, but I would say more of a groove, a beat. They might enjoy more of a melody, and they probably like, the lead singer also, right? They find
But
him attractive, right? My
I
point is, every band has tried to do the math. How do we get more women at our shows, right? And Tobias has actually pulled it off. He's done the math. He took out the calculator and figured it all out.
Look, if you liked Alice Cooper, you'll find something in Ghost. If you liked Kiss, you'll find something
Yeah.
in Ghost. If you liked Blue Oyster Cult, you'll find something in Ghost. If you liked Metallica's Black Album, you'll find something in Ghost. If you liked Bon Jovi or Def Leppard, you'll find something in Ghost. You're ticking a lot of boxes there for actually a band, and the fact that they have the costume and the storyline. So the storyline dictates they can come out and do a heavy song sometimes, and then the storyline might dictate that they do a softer song sometimes. And I feel it's almost like the persona and the Ghost universe, the story, kind of allows them. Look, we've talked about this with Giles. We did a review. We talked about the Futures of Foreign Land when we talked about that track that was the studio track on the live album they just did. But that was a studio track with their alter ego, where it was Papa One's band from 1969. So Ghost could wear their 1969 persona and do an Austin Powers trippy Steppenwolf kind of song, and then they can have this, the new Papa might be a little, poppier, so they can do songs like this. And then next album they could come out with a totally sinister bastard kind of Papa, an evil Pope, and it could be total metal again.
I wonder when it's going to start. People are going to get tired of this. I don't know. Maybe they're not, because we're just in a new age. Back in the day, you used to have too much exposure. So you'd have Dee Snider on every single magazine. It would go on forever, and you couldn't look anywhere, and you would see Twisted Sister everywhere. And is there sort of overdoing it? Is there overexposure today? I don't know. Like,
Well,
we live in a
right.
different world.
The thing with social media is keep people engaged, because you're right. The formula used to be first early days, bands put out albums every 6 months. Then that stopped. And then we got like later in our lives where bands would put out albums every 2 or 3 years, or like every 7 years if you're like a Metallica. And it was kind of, make them miss you. But now with a band like Ghost, think about it. Since they got popular, they do an album, then they do an EP, maybe a cover song, maybe a live album. Then they just do something on YouTube that advances the story. There's always something going on with them. Like they have not been dormant for like the last 5 years. It's always been something.
Yeah, like
So
they're McDonald's. Think of McDonald's. They went from the jungle gyms to the cafe McDonald's. And I guess what's the next phase for McDonald's? You got to keep evolving. You got to keep changing. You got to change your brand up. You got to change your logo. You got to change your look. You got to change
reinvent
everything.
yourself, but not so much that you're going to alienate your fan base. And that's why, hey, there's a new Papa. Oh, the ghouls are going to dress differently because the Papa wants them to. And the sound will be a bit different because the new Papa is at the helm. So, look, man.
Perrin, they're at a very critical point, because the 15-year mark is the true test. Because it's a generation, right? If you were 15 years old when you first started liking Ghost and now you're 30, are you going to be turned off by the time you're 30, right? There's that 15-year generational thing where people start looking for new stuff, especially when you're 15. You don't really, you go back to it, but I'm just trying to say, in generally speaking, You change, you evolve as a person. And of course, you go back to what you loved, just like us. When we were 15, maybe we got turned off in our 20s and 25s of some music, but then we went back to it and revisited it.
But Jim, I got to tell you, something happened for me with Ghost that's never happened with any other music. So
you fell in
a
love.
couple years ago, when the single from Mary on a Cross came out, I had it on my playlist, on my phone. And my daughter, who was 16 at the time, said, "Dad, I think we have the same song on our phone." And she had Mary on a Cross.
Ooh, did she go, ooh?
No, so I don't know. She seemed intrigued. So that was the first time that my 16-year-old daughter at the time and me, just around 50, had similar tastes in at least this song. So again, that speaks to what they have going on here. That's really something.
Especially if you had no communication about it, right?
Yeah. And if you got kids like listening to this kind of stuff instead of rap, well, I think that's a step in the right direction.
All right, so here we go. Here's the final question. Is this false metal? Well, it's pretty obvious. We're not going to say it's false metal. This is not false metal. He's just reinvented metal. Hard rock, metal. I know Art said this is hard rock metal, and I would agree. This falls in the category of hard rock and metal. Alice Cooper would be probably in that same sort of fit, hard rock and metal. There's times when he's metal, there's times when he's hard rock, and there's times when he's just rock. But it's kind of within that sort of universe.
Yeah, nothing false about this. Some people might say there's nothing metal about this, but whatever. At the end, look, somebody said Styx. Yeah, Styx, Journey, Bon Jovi, Def Leppard. Doesn't really matter. It's like...
I'm going to rank this. I think I like... Was it Satanized? I like more. No, I like the last single better. La Crema. What's it called?
La Crema.
La Crema. I like that one. I like that one the best. Then this one comes in second, and then Satanized is the third one.
Yeah, this is number one for me. This is number one. Okay. And the interesting thing is there's only 10 songs on the album. We've now heard the first 3.
We've reviewed 30% of it.
Yeah, so when we get the album and we review it, we only got to listen to the next 7.
I like what Keep the Change says. Ghost shares traits with boy band style marketing. Probably. Can you blame people for figuring out clever ways to, play arenas?
Yeah.
We go to shows with 100, 200 people, and they're all our age or older. And they would wish they could play arenas in front of so many people, and they figure you got to.
Jim, you and I talk to a lot of bands, and guys, bands are not having an easy time making a living these days, and they get out there, they love what they're doing, and if they can get out there and make a little bit of money, they're happy. You got a band that's putting together a hard rock metal formula, that's playing arenas, that's selling a ton of merch, that's engaging with people on multiple levels. I don't like when metal fans, rock fans, when we eat our own. You can't resent a band. When you start a band, the goal is always to be the biggest band in the world. And sometimes in metal, we resent the band for getting to that level because they're not that underground secret of ours anymore, but they've been exposed to the masses. But, Tobias didn't start Ghost when he was young. He was in other bands before he was in Ghost. And this only became a thing like in his mid-30s, and now he's in his mid-40s or early 40s, I think.
Yeah,
so
like that.
He's only finally reached a level of success in his mid-40s. These boy bands reach a level of success when they're like teenagers. So it's
and they burn out fast. Very fickle crowds that they have. All right. On that note, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for your comments. So leave a comment. This is the last comment I want everybody to write. And by the way, Alexander says, I'm waiting for Wasp this Friday. They are real metal.
I'm waiting for, Jim?
Here's the big question. Sabotage, to come to Montreal or Canada. So, big question. Ghost, not Wasp. Ghost. False metal or metal? False metal or metal? Leave a comment.
And do you like the song?